Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Enroll Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about doing an overview of anticipated items that need to be taken care of in the business during this next year. I don't know about you, but always the first month of a new year is just crazy because the last two and a half weeks of the previous year, a lot of things don't usually get done. And then you're playing catch up in the beginning of the year after the holidays and also trying to get ready for this new year. Hopefully you planned well at the last quarter of the year and you've watched my past videos about the anticipation and things to take care of so that the first of the year isn't crazier than it needs to be. What I want to talk about today is just giving a good idea of things that at this time of the year, the very beginning, things to anticipate, to look at, to consider as the year goes through, because we know time flies and the busier you are, the more it goes faster, and also you have good intentions to get things done and then time sneaks up on you and you find yourself scrambling last minute, and that is not good for anyone. These are items that need to be taken care of in the business in order for the business to continue, operations to continue, the providers to be able to continue practicing medicine, for everything to be on the up and up so that your patients get the best care possible, your staff stays satisfied, and the business stays successful. This is not going to be a comprehensive list, but I am going to throw some ideas, some things out there, and then hopefully that will trigger other things specifically for your situation that maybe you can create a list for yourself and check off every year at the beginning of the year, anticipating, planning what needs to be done. One of the biggest things is your credentialing. Who needs to be re-credentialed in the upcoming year in your practice? It could be none, it could be some, it could be all. It just depends on the timing, right? Because most insurance companies require every 3 years. Hopefully you have watched my credentialing videos and you took my advice and you started making sure that you are putting on calendars when things are due and tracking so it doesn't surprise you. If you haven't, it's very important that you get that information, so you need to be contacting your insurances to find out when your providers are due for re-credentialing, because it is something that takes some time. You have to gather items together, and you do not want to wait till the last minute for that. Medicare can actually withhold funds until re-credentialing is done, and they might even kick providers off their plan. So that is something that could happen with other payers as well, and you don't want to find yourself in that position. So definitely for credentialing, re-credentialing, find out who needs to be re-credentialed this year. If your owners, and you're not the owner, you're the manager, are maybe anticipating hiring people this year, you'll want to take that into consideration as well, because you'll have to credential or at least check on the credentialing for them, and then also the new providers need to be associated with the group contract if that's how your business is set up. The next thing related to providers are licensures and DEA registration certificates. Who is due for their licenses to be renewed? Is that something that you are responsible for, or is that something that the provider is responsible for? Even if the provider is responsible for that, I still recommend a manager or someone to be following up with them, giving them a heads up, hey, just a reminder, you need to renew your license this year, and making sure that they know that you know it needs to be done, especially if they need to have re-credentialing done, because you're going to have to provide that updated licensure during that re-credentialing depending on the timing. You will also need a copy of that relicensure once it is renewed to keep in your master file of documents so that you can use it when needed. Same thing goes for the DEA. Who's due for their DEA registration? Who's responsible for it? If it's the providers themselves, reminding them, staying on top of them. they get really busy and they really should be focusing on providing patient care. And this administrative stuff is very much a burden on most of them. So anything you can do to try to assist them, help them, remind them is usually appreciated by them. What about internally for your maybe internal lab, like your point of care? Does your CLIA waiver need to be renewed? Does your business license need to be renewed? Do the insurances need to be renewed, such as like the malpractice for every provider, the business liability insurance? How is that all working? If you rent a space or you lease a space, are you going to need to renew your lease this year? And is it something that you want to do? Do you need to negotiate? Or are you going to start looking for another place to move? You don't want to wait till the last minute on these things, because not only would it disrupt patient care, it will also disrupt your operations, your money flow into the business, and you have to contact the insurances if you're going to move, and that is a task in itself, let me tell you. This is also a really good time to review your contracts. Hopefully you have some kind of plan every year so you don't have to do all of your payer contracts each year, but about every other year, every third year, you should have some kind of set out plan with your insurances and when you're going to try to review them, negotiate, etc. Hopefully, like I said, you don't have to do them all in one year, but if you do, then you even need to plan ahead even further depending on how many insurances you bill. So that would be another thing you would want to be checking. Along the RCM lines, do you need to update your fee schedule because of the Medicare fee schedule changing at the beginning of the year? Maybe you didn't get to it at the end of last year. Hopefully you did, but if you didn't, now would be definitely the time to get it done. Do you need to increase any of your charges? Do you need to make sure that Medicare charges are in line with what they said they were going to do with their update? I know it dropped in reimbursement, but just paying attention to that kind of stuff. And it does go hand in hand with reviewing your payer contracts and negotiating if needed. Are there any large purchases that need to be made this year? Are you anticipating buying new equipment, replacing equipment, adding a new service that you're going to offer to patients that requires expensive equipment? If so, have you budgeted for that already? Hopefully you have, but if you haven't and you want to do it towards the end of the year, now would be the time to start doing that. So this is something also to consider. What about staff reviews? Are staff going to be due for their reviews? Hopefully you do them annually. And if so, is that when you usually give a bonus or some kind of pay increase? Because that needs to be anticipated with your financials. And you want to make sure you get it on the calendar so you don't forget. One of the biggest things of dissatisfied staff is when they don't get regular reviews, they don't get feedback formally about their performance and the lack of increase in their pay. So you want to make sure you stay on top of this because it makes them feel special. It makes them feel like you're doing your job and that they're appreciated. So all of the stuff I'm talking about, you really should be organized, putting things on the calendar, talking to your owner if you're not the owner, setting out a game plan, because you don't want to be just winging it, because people feel that. Patients could feel that if it's patient related, other providers can feel that if it's provider related, staff will feel it, and you really don't want to make people feel that way. You want to show them that you are structured, you are organized, and you're capable. And they need to have confidence in you as a leader in the practice. And if you're not organized and anticipating these things, then they will lose respect for you at a certain point. The other things that need to be considered, is there equipment that needs to be recalibrated annually or cleaned? Is that scheduled? If not, you want to do that, because all of these places that do these types of services or offer these types of services, which actually honestly there's probably not that many, they could be backlogged and you don't want to be on the expired side of things or overdue. So make sure you get that scheduled. Reviewing your policies and procedures, making sure they're up to date, and if any patient paperwork needs to be updated, that gets done. Hopefully you did do this before the end of the year, but if not, it's not too late. Get it done during the first quarter of the year, preferably the first month or two, and you don't have to worry about it for another year. Are there any big vacations that your providers are going to be taking, or going to conferences that you need to anticipate on the schedule to make sure that they're scheduled off, that you have coverage, that your staff, if they're taking any time off, that is going to put you in a little bit of a bind with coverage. You can anticipate that and kind of try to plan that now. Of course, things come up, and that is my biggest point, I think, behind bringing all this up, not only to help you financially be successful by budgeting for this stuff and to be able to keep your operations going so there's no disruption in your cash flow coming in, but also for the things that you can't plan, the things you can't anticipate. If you are as organized as possible for the things that you can, it will be a lot easier to handle the items when they come up that are unexpected. And you want to set yourself, your business, your staff, your providers, your patients all up for success. And the way to do that is to be thinking of these things, planning these things, and just showing that you care. It is not that hard. The first time usually is, because you are probably watching this for the first time, and you could be a new owner, a new manager, or in a new practice, and you're going, oh my gosh, you're right. The end of the year was so crazy. I'm still trying to get my bearings, or I'm still trying to figure things out, but I should do this. Sit down, take the time, write out a list, fun little notepads. I'm still old school. I like paper and pen, and just start jotting down all the things that come to mind that you want to anticipate. And then take that list and work from it. And digitalize it, put it on a Word document so it's saved, it's easy to update in real time, and use that. And then next year at this time, you're gonna be so comfortable, you're gonna be so happy, you're gonna be like, oh yes, this is so easy. And every year is gonna be different than the next, right? Like one year might have a ton of stuff you need to do, the next year isn't so much. And it's just good to do. So take it from me. Set yourself up for success, set everyone else up for success, and do this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please share this with all your colleagues in the healthcare field, especially if they are leaders in their practice, to make sure that they're aware that this is best practice for them. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.